On behalf of the Lower Niger Congress, I'm pleased to welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, to this important Igbo Conclave happening in faraway Houston. At a time like this, when it appears the Igbo in Nigeria have come again to the kind of crossroads we found ourselves in 1966. In about 25 slide, presentation through the next few minutes, what we intend to do is to bring, what could pass for the diagnosis, the prescription, the treatment plan, and the prognosis of what to do with the Igbo situation in Nigeria, for which we are gathered here to say, where do we go from here? I will have to thank the organizers for, this extraordinary initiative that can give us the ample space to ventilate all of what it is and come to conclusions that could be used to solve the problem. I have to apologize for not being here in person. The plan was to be here, but last minute developments and ground zero, you know how it is, interfered with that plan, and we had to resort to this to have the audience to also get what we can use technology to drive. Again, I say welcome, and we will, at the time we come to the end of this presentation, have a plan on the table that could be an alternative to what we reject. Thank you. In response to the ground realities in Nigeria of today, the Lower Niger Congress is a self-determination platform of the ethnic nationalities of the former Eastern region and the Midwestern region, seeking to federate into a new constitutional order in their territory, in reworking their future from a Nigeria that seems to be heading for major reconfiguration. The territory itself, as you find in the map you see, that's the map of Nigeria, 36 states. The portion in green is basically what was Eastern region up to 1966 and Midwestern region up to 1966. In the fuller map of Nigeria that we see, the green portion to the top is 12 states, the 12 contiguous states of the Muslim North that had imposed Sharia since the year 2000 and effectively seceding from the Constitution of Nigeria. We call it a constitutional secession, for them to bring Sharia that rejects democracy and constitutionalism. And we are thinking that it's better to let them, they have a right to self-determination like the rest of the country. The blue to the left there is the Yoruba contiguous block. The one to the bottom is the prospective Lower Niger Federation, made up of, as you see, the map to the right, top right. This map we found in the archives of 1885 of the very territory that we've just shown you, according to their these are city-states, coastal city-states, and their linguistic groups in that period, 1885 to 1906. We could see all of how they are spread, with the Igbo at the center. You see the Ijaw, and then the Anang, the Efik, and all of that. We had to go for this map so that, because incidentally, everybody still lives exactly where they were on this map to date. The only thing that has changed is Nigeria that had, put states and council areas in such a manner that, nothing to do with reality anymore. And we say we go from the known to the unknown. That's the map of the Lower Niger. Today, it's called South-South and Southeast, but we are not talking about all of that. We're just talking about the ethnic nationalities in this geographical space, seeking to federate, going forward politically. The two maps you see, because there's been a lot of confusion and misunderstanding between Biafra, that is all over the place now, and the lower Niger that we are talking about. The Biafra, like you see on your map, on the map to your left, is basically, was basically the former eastern region. And you could see that Asaba, Abo, and all of what was Midwest was not in that. But today, in the lower Niger, the map to your right, you will see that the balance of the Igbo on the left side of the river Niger, and the Robo, the Shekiri, the Bini, the Edo, part of this discussion that may become a lower Niger Federation. Therefore, all of Biafra is in this, plus the Midwest that included the Igbo and some of the Igbo that are now in Kogi and Benue, according to Nigeria's configuration. That is what the lower Niger, is. The Igbo question, as we have known it, is basically a constitutional question. And the lower Niger Congress is of the firm conviction that self-determination is the panacea. The self-determination is the answer to all constitutional questions. Whether you went to South Africa, where apartheid was in place, or you went to Congo, or all of those disputations, or even in the West, where we're talking about Catalonia and the rest of Spain, or Corsica and the rest of France, whatever the complaints are, particularly with emphasis on the Igbo situation in Nigeria, whether it is the killings that are happening or our infrastructure that is damaged, whatever it is simply constitutional questions that will have to be answered. And the answering of it takes the shape of self-determination, in which case you are going from imposition to agreement. You are going from internal colonialism to letting people agree on how they want to live together. And if that agreement is not forthcoming, of course, everybody will have to make alternative arrangements, because what we have now is the suzerainty that the British had enjoyed for almost 70 years, being passed on to local agents of theirs, which basically is the rest of Nigeria as far as the East is concerned. The specific issues, the specific things creating problems for us inside the current Constitution of Nigeria, 1999, are listed here. The first is that our consent to the being and the terms of the Nigerian Union was manufactured and in place in a preamble that is foisted on us, the authorship of that same document, saying that we, the people, made it. We never made it. We couldn't have made our damnation. Second is the 36-state structure, supported by several local government areas, which make the Igbo a permanent political minority in terms of revenue sharing, in terms of political decision and representation. There's nothing anybody can do about that. The Igbo that entered independence as almost 70% of Nigeria in 1960 is now reduced to a voiceless minority. Then we have the 68-item federal exclusive legislative list, by which the federal government, basically the rest of Nigeria, impowers and confiscates both assets and the right to work those assets for the benefit of the federating units. Such assets including oil, gas, coal, limestone, huge maritime space, and other resources. Those federally constituted rights include electricity generation and transmission, key infrastructure including roads, railways, seaports, airports, oil and gas, refining, power to refine, policing, a wide range of business licenses. There's nothing, all of the key developmental levers are, sequestered and confiscated by the rest of Nigeria in the name of a federal government that we didn't put in place. These are the things that chain Eastern Nigeria down, the Igbo down. The states are almost impotent. That's not to make any excuse for the governors who should have done the little they could. There are more than 12 such constitutional grievances, as you will find in a document titled Countrywide Rejection of the 1999 Constitution. The answer to all this is the restoration of our right to own, control, and work all assets, human and material, for the benefit of Eastern Nigeria. This is where self-determination comes in, which in itself is a gamut of options ranging from outright independence to confederation and various shades of federalism. Going from Aburi in 1967 and all the efforts thereafter to resolve these issues within the context of one Nigeria, it stands to reason that it is the adamant arrogance of the born-to-rule alliance of the rest of Nigeria that seems to have effectively extinguished other self-determination options, leaving only outright independence, pursued by way of a referendum. As earlier indicated, the geography, history, and contrived political demographics of today's Nigeria, as well as international protocols governing self-determination, creates a compelling necessity for the Igbo to work very closely with the rest of Niger Delta neighbors. This was the basis of the Lower Niger paradigm initiated by ALADINMA, the Igbo Caucus of the Lower Niger Congress. As Nigeria wobbles through, what you see here was put out on the 30th of May 2012, to say that this was where ALADINMA, which is the Igbo Caucus within the Lower Niger Congress, told the whole world. I'm sure all of you have the full text in your electronic devices because the Secretariat had forwarded same to everybody. But we just extracted these few paragraphs to give an indication that there is an engagement with the issue on ground, and that if we take it from what we find here to where it is now, where people are being shot in Aba, on Nature, and Port Harcourt, everywhere in Nigeria, on account of wanting the restoration of Biafra, which for them was an alternative and is still an alternative to Nigeria. Therefore we say, ALADINMA speaking now, that as Nigeria wobbles in the throes of what seems its terminus, and the various federating blocs continue to explore options for their political future, a research-based, Odyssey of the Igbo in Nigeria from inception to date, intended to birth an action plan for societal reconstruction, was undertaken by a younger generation that couldn't have participated in the Biafran War just by their age, and codenamed ALADINMA, over a period of, now 17 years. Then it was just about 12 years plus. That initiative has not only diagnosed the Igbo question correctly, but has attracted a considerable mass of adherents with clarity, commitment, courage, and capacity to drive the change processes required completely to re-engineer the Igbo society within a reconfigured political structure and thought-driven. ALADINMA had the privilege of working with a select few of older generation, including Chukwemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, CCO, and some other persons still working with us. As detected by the wider constitutional dimensions of the project, ALADINMA reached out to other ethnic nationalities co-suffering with Igbo in the failed British experiment we call Nigeria, such that in blocks of cohesive formations, they are in consensus, working out constitutional arrangements that will peacefully ease out the current imposed constitutional order, which is the source of the nightmare Nigeria has become for its peoples, including the Igbo. The ALADINMA ideal in time evolved into an organized movement quietly coordinating the Igbo arm of Lower Niger Congress. And like I said before, the LNC is an initiative to federate the peoples of the former Eastern and Midwestern region into a prospective Lower Niger Federation in readiness for the inevitable constitutional reconstruction of Nigeria. The basis of intervention. We say, ALADINMA speaking still, it is an open secret that that the Nigerian war against Biafra did not end in 1970. Battlefields merely shifted to other fronts. Post-war assets seizures, targeted infrastructural decay, glass ceiling in public service, and remotely orchestrated electoral hits, which enthroned mainly societal renegades in power, all render Igbo land the jungle it has become. For the Igbo, the constitutional regime in place today, the so-called 1999 Constitution, is basically a codification of the terms of conquest by Nigeria and its foreign sponsors to permanently control the war booty, one Nigeria, very carefully choreographed constitutional order in which a contrived political majority created by and imposed states and local government structures arrogantly preside over the lives and assets of a numerical majority who are now negligible political minority. That's the Igbo. With a 68-item federal exclusive legislative list, which firmly put in the hands of the contrived political majority absolute control of the levers of development and governance. The so-called states are mere administrative appendages groveling at the feet of an almighty federal government, constitutionally forbidden and incapacitated from doing many things, including generation, transmission of electricity, internal security, railway, ports, all of those things, 68 items. The Lower Niger Congress is of the firm view that the raging Biafra agitation is symptomatic of a massive, though unspoken, desire for self-emancipation by the peoples of the former eastern region and their neighbors in the rest of Niger Delta from imprisonment of Nigeria. In other words, Biafra is a euphemism for the quest for self-determination by the peoples of the Lower Niger. The reason for this quest, and particularly the new urgency it has assumed, can be gleaned from an alarm come admonition by SANUSI LAMIDO, SANUSI, the former governor of Central Bank, now Emir in Kano. I quote LAMIDO, he says that the northern bourgeoisie and the Yoruba bourgeoisie have conspired to keep the Igbo out of the scheme of things. They've been defeated in war, rendered paupers by monetary policy, fired, their properties declared abandoned and confiscated, kept out of strategic public sector appointments, and deprived of public services. The rest of the country forced them to remain in Nigeria and has continued to deny them equity. Our present political leaders have no sense of history. There is a new Igbo man who was not born in 1966 and neither knows nor cares about Nzogwu and Ojukwu. There are Igbo men in the streets who were never Biafrans. They were born Nigerians and are Nigerians, but suffer because of the actions of earlier generations. They will soon decide that it is better to fight their own war and maybe find an honorable peace than to remain in this contemptible state in perpetuity. The Nigerian bourgeoisie, the northern bourgeoisie and the Yoruba bourgeoisie have exacted their pound of flesh from the Igbos for one Sadona, one Tafawa Balewa, one Akintola, and one Okotiebo. Hundreds of thousands have died and suffered. If these issues is not immediately addressed, no conference will solve Nigeria's problems. End of quote. With the experiences of the past and in readiness for the fallouts of the impending change, ALADINMA has worked out with Lower Niger Congress an offshore-based asset protection guarantee scheme to ensure that Igbo assets and those of the rest of the Lower Niger will not be lost by the owners, at least in value, on account of any changes in Nigeria. Information on the modalities for inventory and other steps will be made public in the coming days. Of course, there are international protocols. Prior to the 1966 to 70 genocidal episode and its aftermath through the years, as referred to by SANUSI, there had been the so-called Northernization program by Sir AHMADU Bello, then Premier of Northern Region, in which better qualified Easterners were replaced by Northerners or foreigners in the civil service, while massive expropriation was enacted against Igbo asset owners. The same AHMADU Bello had, in the week of independence in 1960, declared to his lieutenants as follows: the new nation called Nigeria should be an estate of our great-grandfather, Uthman Dan Fodio. We must ruthlessly prevent a change of power. We use the minorities in the north as willing tools and the south as a conquered territory. Never allow them to rule over us and never allow them to have control over their future. Parrot newspaper, 12th October 1960. Anybody still wondering at the overwhelming sentiment towards self-determination in Eastern Nigeria should ponder over the following: the imposition of Sharia by 12 states of the far north, in which the faith of the adherents require them to kill the infidel, compounds the pathetic woes of the Igbo in Nigeria, who, entering independence as a conquered territory according to AHMADU Bello, got defeated in a war of genocide and now living under apartheid constitutional arrangement according to SANUSI, imposed as the victory charter by the all-conquering alliance of the rest of Nigeria. It is the rejection of this internal colonialism by a younger generation, as predicted by SANUSI in 1999, that is now manifesting as agitation for Biafra. Lower Niger Congress posits that what is at issue is essentially a quest for self-determination by a people despised, hated, haunted, envied, and routinely massacred by their fellow countrymen. The next slide shows a consistent pattern of the conspiratorial alliance spanning over more than 50 years between the conservative north and the renegade wing of the Yoruba west. In this map you see, the Lower Niger you see in green, and the rest of the country being the west and the north. In the era of the number one, the one that numbered 1 to 5, The number one is the era of 1966 to 70, which saw a Wallo War working with Gowon to, and both of them leading a war of genocide on the East that killed 3.5 million people plus and seized the oil and gas assets of Eastern Nigeria. We came straight from that to 1975-79 era where, again, Murtala Mohammed of the North and Obasanjo of the South, later Yaradua replacing Murtala, imposed the 1979 Unitary Constitution legitimizing the illicit gains of the war. In the third period, in which we're talking about the 1999 to date, again, we found an Absalom Abaka from the north, bringing in an Obasanjo from the southwest, pairing him with an Atiku from the north, and bringing back, by decree number 24 of 1999, that 1979 constitution, which was a codification of our conquest by the rest of Nigeria. And that has remained the basis, the resultant Constitution 99 has remained the basis of the so-called democracy that Nigeria, seems to be flaunting. At number 4 is the period, we are still looking at this one map. We are looking at a period spanning over 50 years in which consistently the political leaders of the North, conservative North, working with the renegade wing of the Yoruba elite, have consistently been on one side against the eastern side. Therefore, as the 2015 electoral round approached, because a southerner, Jonathan, was president, again they went back into the alliance, and the rest we can see it became what they call APC. And then the elections came. Of course, we saw all of how it was run. The number 5, looking at the same map, was basically the voting pattern in the election, in which the 11 states of the lower Niger, as if on a prompt, the ordinary people voted in one direction, and the rest of the country, more or less, voted in the opposite direction. That was, to our mind, some kind of referendum on the situation. Bearing all of that in mind, the Lower Niger Congress convened a solemn assembly of the peoples of the Lower Niger, that is the Igbo and the rest of the Niger Delta, in Port Harcourt on the 27th of April 2015. That's after the presidential election of March in 2015, at which decisions were taken by delegations of the ethnic nationalities in the Lower Niger, the Igbo, the Ijaw, the Shekiri, the Urobo, the Anang, the Efik, the Edo, all of, without exception, the Ogoni, to go into a referendum that will redefine their political future. I'll just go straight to the meat of what was decided. So, upon presentations made to the Solemn Assembly by the Lower Niger Congress, the Solemn Assembly resolved that, having been openly rejected by the rest of Nigeria, and in view of our right to self-determination as enunciated in the United Nations Declaration and on the right of indigenous people 2007, particularly Articles 3, 4, and 5, to take steps in exercise of that right by seeking a future outside the union of attrition called Nigeria via a non-violent process driven by consensus of the peoples of the territory, verified through a referendum. The Assembly adopted the 1885 map of the Lower Niger as the geographical basis of our proposed federation. Accordingly, the following steps were mandated by the Solemn Assembly. 1, the distillation of a chart of relationships by the ethnic nations of the Lower Niger according to the aforesaid map of 1885, which may become the basis of the federating constitution of the proposed Lower Niger Federation. 2, a referendum of the peoples of the Lower Niger on the question of self-determination, to be preceded by extensive consultations with the populace, mainly through town hall meetings, as well as consultations with international stakeholders via direct representation. I'm sure some of you must have seen on the internet, if you click Lower Niger Congress on YouTube right now, you will find that on the 18th of May 2015, the one you hear his voice now was on the hallowed grounds of the US Congress at an event that was reviewing the election that had happened in Nigeria, addressing the same issue. just to let you know that that consultation has been ongoing. 3, to avoid a repeat of the wicked expropriation of assets enacted against the people of Lower Niger, particularly the Igbo in 1970, via abandoned property decree, an asset protection and guarantee scheme to secure, at least in value, the assets of the peoples of the Lower Niger situate outside the Lower Niger territory within Nigeria. 4, a recall home for consultations of all persons of Lower Niger, elected or appointed, present or proceeded, in any way connected with the management of Nigeria under the current constitution, with a view to determining the propriety or otherwise of further participation in the affairs of the Union. Formal announcements specifying the dates and venues for such consultations shall be made public in the course of time. 5, a standing all-purpose committee of the Solemn Assembly to be constituted to oversee the processes herein outlined and to deal with discussions involving all persons and institutions in furtherance to this mandate. Again, in the same video, you will find that the team that went to the U.S. Congress had proceeded to the UN in New York a few days after. These discussions are already going on, and I'm sure some of you heard the European Union speaking up in favor of a referendum to resolve the Biafran question, recently. As we prepare, that's the conclusion to the resolutions in Port Harcourt. As we prepare for this all-important referendum on self-determination, let it be known to the whole world that the Union of Nigeria is now a disputed project, and until these disputes are fully resolved, all international stakeholders are hereby put on notice and advised to take these realities into account in their dealings. You will see that the signatories of the decisions of the Port Harcourt event include Joe Achuzier. Many of you know him. He chaired the assembly. There's Fred Agbeyegbe, the president of Lower Niger Congress. By the way, I bring you his greetings. He's in Shekiri. And, you see Timi Kesa Ogoriba, who is at the head of the Ijo Caucus within the Lower Niger Congress. And, of course, myself, the Secretary General. So as it is, the Aburi option has been kicked off the table by Boko Haram, since Sharia is mutually exclusive with constitutionalism and democracy. For the younger ones present, the Aburi option is simply the confederation model that was agreed in Aburi in the period of the confusion I earlier referred to, in which the federating regions of the time will have resumed substantial portions of their autonomy prior to independence, and then allow some period before they decide, just like Germany and Portugal and France are doing European Union today. That was the kind of thing that was intended. But between what the 12 states of the far north that brought in Sharia in year 2000 are doing, and what Boko Haram that was brought later to enforce the same pursuit of Sharia, has brought Nigeria to, the Lower Niger Congress is completely convinced that the matter of having any kind of union, based on Nigeria that was there, has been kicked out of the table. Since Sharia is mutually exclusive with constitutionalism and democracy, it stands to reason that Nigeria cannot remain one political union, except either the Sharia bloc is persuaded to abandon Sharia for democracy, or the non-Sharia bloc, which is the Igbo and the rest, is compelled to abandon constitutionalism for Sharia. The prospect for either is nil, and therefore creates a new reality. Delegates to the historic Houston Igbo Conclave are enjoined to endorse the aforementioned resolution of the Solemn Assembly of the Peoples of Lower Niger as a necessary first step towards advancing the Igbo march to self-redemption. The LSE USA is fully positioned to receive all support, human and material, from all those who may wish to join in this urgent task. Of course, you see the website there. Ladies and gentlemen, the next slide, which is a 1964 recording of the same Sir AHMADU Bello, scripting the mindset of the Caliphate North against the Igbo. The Northernization program of Sir AHMADU Bello is currently being expanded by the new political helmsmen in Abuja to include the whole of Nigeria. And that is to say, we just have to do something to end this, the operation of this battle script and mission statement, which has translated into a constitutional shackle against the Igbo in Nigeria. Listen to AHMADU Bello.
One thing I've noticed, Premier, while I've been here, is that Northerners seem to have, I might almost call it, obsession about the Igbos. Could you perhaps explain that to me?
Well, the Igbos are more or less the type of people whose desire is mainly to dominate everybody. If they go to a village, to a town, they want to monopolize everything in that area. If you put them in a labor camp as a laborer, within a year they will try to emerge as headman of that camp, and so on. Well, in the past, our people were not alive to their responsibilities, because you can see from our northernization policy that in 1952, when I came here, there weren't 10 northerners in our civil service here. Then I tried to have it northernized, and now all important posts are being held by northerners.
Is this policy of filling all key posts in the north solely with northerners and not with other Nigerians a temporary or a permanent one?
In actual fact, what it is a northerner first. If you can't get a northerner, then we take an expatriate like yourself on contract. If we can't, then we can employ another Nigerian, but on contract too. This is going to be permanent, I should say, as far as I can foresee, because it will be rather dangerous to see the number of boys who are now turning from all our learning institutions, coming out with having no work to do. I'm sure whichever government of the day might be, it will feel rather embarrassed, and it might even lead to bloodshed.
Doesn't this damage the idea, sir, of all people in all regions in Nigeria being fellow citizens of one country?
Well, it might, but you are, I mean, new to our region, but how many northerners are employed in the east or in the west? The answer is no. And if there are, there may be 10 laborers employed only in the two regions.
What BELLO'S said was mostly true. The Easterners at that time were the most progressive Nigerians. They were in top positions all across government, and with Ironsi and Easterner in power, the northern fear was that the East would dominate Nigeria forever.
In conclusion, the Lower Niger Congress is firmly convinced that self-determination is the answer to the Igbo situation in Nigeria today, and referendum, not the bearing of arms or any kind of fight, solves it. Can we all then embrace this option in order to walk into our destiny, our future, away from a present and a past of bloodletting and retardation? I thank you for your attention. God bless you all.